Welcome to the Holiness Today podcast. On this editor's episode, Jordan Eigsti and I connect with Crystal Gibbons to discuss the recently released July-August Holiness Today issue on Moses. Crystal Gibbons, you are our first reader for the editor's issue. This is the editor's issue for the Moses July-August 2026 issue, and we are kind of figuring this out as we go. So we thought it'd be fun. Jordan's with us today also, but we kind of figured it'd be fun to invite a reader. So as I was looking at the issue this morning, I personally, I'm just going to be confessional here on the podcast, I was struggling on what angle I wanted to approach this with. The idea of inviting Crystal on, and hopefully we're going to have more readers going forward. Now, Crystal is a familiar voice. You'll have heard her do her interviews for the Holiness Today podcast in the past. When this episode comes out, Crystal will be doing the following podcast episode conversation that she has going. With who, Crystal? Tell us who you got. Who did you interview that'll be coming up next after this episode?
Tim Bowen Evans. He's currently the regional NCM coordinator for Eurasia, and he's moving into a global role with NCM. And it's just a great conversation about compassion and how that looks in an individualistic way and as a global church, what that looks like. It's a really good conversation.
Yeah, we're excited for that. So if I've sequenced this correctly, that'll be the next episode if you're listening to this episode. So we'll have that figured out. But and then Jordan, I'm gonna plug you in here. I was so thankful that you sent me the layout because that kind of just changed the way that I wanted to do this podcast. But I love the design of it. And you didn't give yourself credit, but you wrote about Moses in the art world. But tell us about your background and why you would want to interject that in there. Tell us your formative education in the educational world.
Yes. So I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. So art history was my undergraduate major. Haven't done graduate studies yet. Hopefully I will someday. But anyway, I wanted to put a little plug in there about Moses because I was so interested in that when I was in school, that anytime you see a figure with horns, I mean, not anytime, but a lot of times if you see a figure with horns, it's Moses. And that's just because of a translation error, which I thought was just so interesting. So there's like a little blurb about that in the beginning of the PDF. But it was from the Latin Vulgate translation of Exodus 34, which describes Moses' face as radiant after encountering God, but that's just the translation issue. It translated it as horned, and so a lot of times he's represented with horns or like shining.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, so anytime you see
That's
a figure
really cool.
that looks like that, there's a good indication that it's Moses. Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to kind of plug it in there, but
yeah. Crystal, unfairly, we didn't send this to you last second, unless Jordan did. But I'm looking at the layout, so
that's okay.
Crystal's like, "What are you referencing?" Yeah, sorry.
No, that's really cool. I'm excited to see it. I'm actually happy that I have something to look forward to.
Definitely.
Yeah, the layout is really cool. Yeah, it's good. You got a timeline in there too, Jordan. You did a timeline of Moses' life.
A little timeline, which again, it's like, how do you do? I could do an entire issue of a timeline. There's just so much that happens, but I did my best to include key things that happened in his life.
Well, I'm gonna put our reader on the spot, and then if she returns the question to me, I'll have to have an answer as well. But Crystal, when you were reading this, what stood out to you? I mean, because the theme is Moses, but what was the theme within the theme? Was there anything that popped out to you that it's like the authors hit on this, putting you on the spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think no, it's okay. I think overall, I loved that nobody really highlighted him as this super Christian necessarily, but more as this sort of reluctant, insecure, imperfect person that God used in a powerful way. And I love that. I'm so happy that was kind of in my feeling, sort of the theme of a lot of the writing was that, God doesn't need someone to have it all together necessarily, but he provides a way to use someone who's imperfect and challenged by bringing others into their life, by, as they said many, many times, God will be with you, that idea of we never walk into something alone. And it was just, it was really neat to see how, I don't know how many of the authors know what the other one is writing about, but it was so interesting to kind of see this through line of so many of the articles are so similar in that way, and how they interpreted Moses' life. He has so many, as you've already said, Jordan, so many unique stories in his overall story that you could really touch on. It was really cool to see how they interpreted his life. Yeah. How about you, Nate? What did you see?
Yeah, no, that was, you hit on it. The reluctant leader, I felt like, was the theme within the theme. And to speak to that, Jordan, I can answer it, but you can answer it too. They don't always see each other's articles. So sometimes it becomes a little tricky if we get in not naming any names, but repeats. But also some of the repetitive or the repeats in the articles kind of tells us a little bit what they were thinking about. So I thought the theme within the theme was the reluctant leader, which we were kind of just chatting before this started, but Crystal and I were both pastors' kids. Crystal, I don't know all your background, but I was sharing some of my war stories of being a PK, but there definitely is a little bit of being voluntold at times. And I would say that Moses was voluntold. Yes. If I could just say Moses was the epitome of voluntold in Scripture, because God just said, no, you're going to go do this. But and also just kind of, a murderer, at 40, he thought, okay, I got everything together. I'm just going to start this revolution, killed someone, didn't work out, hid for 40 years. So he doesn't really have his epic moment of the burning bush until he's 80, which kind of comes out in the timeline. But it's weird to think about that. So it's never too late for those reluctant leaders out there. You might lead a whole nation at the age of 80, but I don't know. Right. Yeah, Jordan, I don't know, because that's always a dilemma. You could probably get behind the scenes a little more, but sometimes we have articles that come in that feel we're always dealing with a deadline. Sometimes we can plan it out and have the authors read each other's articles. Sometimes when it's a special issue, we try and really do that. But generally speaking, it's kind of hard to create inner dialogue with our authors. But if you could speak to that a little bit, the trickiness of that.
I try to let the authors know what the other articles will be, kind of just their subject matter, so that they're not directly writing about the same thing. But when it's something like this, it's about a person, a biblical character, you're just going to get some overlap. But again, like Nate said, I think that was a good thing in this issue, because it draws out kind of the central theme of Moses, which is, like we have been saying, reluctant leader. And I like that you hit on that, Nate, which I think I had known this, but in reading the Scripture and just putting this together, he was 80 years old when he had this call at the burning bush. So it's I understand some of that reluctance. I would understand it from a young person too, but at 80, he's like, are you serious? You want me to lead this nation out of Israel, or out of Egypt, excuse me? So that was just kind of crazy. And the Prince of Egypt movie growing up was a huge impact in my life. I loved it. It was my favorite movie, but it kind of depicts him as this young guy, when he has the call at the burning bush. And so it's interesting to read the Scripture and just think he had lived a whole life by then, and he's married, he's got kids, and then God calls him to do this crazy thing. And so I get some of that reluctance. It's just interesting to see it all play out like that. Yeah.
Well, in putting it together, the other thing that I think would be interesting to just get internal processing from layout perspective, Jordan, but we generally kind of understand, well, if we're doing it, one of the issues we have coming up is on modern theology, and we're going to have definitely a sequence of when the theologians wrote. But when it's a character in Scripture, there is some chronology, but there also, you have to arrange it a certain way. And tell us about kind of what, in your arrangement of the issue, what the story is being told from your perspective, if that makes sense, Jordan.
Yeah. So, it kind of just does go through his life. And the opening article by Eddie Eastep, he kind of hits on that and the progression of events. We start with just kind of a background. Who is Moses? What kind of world is he growing up in? What's happening in the world at this time? And then, his call at the burning bush, and then going through just the craziness of that time with the plagues, which there's a very experiential article about the plagues, kind of what would it be like to have gone through this in the moment. And then moving through that and into Mosaic law. What is the law? What was that experience of getting the law from God on the top of the mountain? And then the ending of his life, it's just such a crazy story, and his sin at Meribah and excluding him from seeing the promised land in person. So we get that all in the opening article from Eddie, but then each one just kind of goes through that stage of his life and takes you from beginning to end, which covers so much in Scripture. So again, it's kind of impossible to do in one issue, but
And is Eddie doing? Is Dr. Eastup doing the word from in this one too?
Yes.
Sorry, I was looking at that. Yeah.
Yep, he did. He did the video, which is also really good. Everyone should watch that. It's short, but it's a perfect introduction to the issue and really covers kind of what we tried to do here. So, yeah, he did a great job.
Crystal, was there anything in reading this? You talked about the theme that kind of popped out, but was there anything in reading this you thought, I didn't know that, or I did know that and I haven't thought about that in a while? Was there anything that kind of stood out to you as you're reading through these articles?
Just overall, or Dr. Eastup's in particular?
Oh, yeah, sorry, just overall. Or Dr. Eastup's, however you want to do it.
Well, the thing that I was thinking, just as Jordan was talking, I remembered that the thing I noticed more in that particular article was just this sort of Moses constantly living in this in-between of everything, of Egypt and Israel and slave and free and wilderness and promised land and all of that, and just what that looks like and feels like. And yeah, it just really gave a humanity in a way to Moses that I guess I hadn't thought about. And I think there's several articles and that give that feel, I guess, is that I think overall they all are leading us to this idea of not just admiring Moses for all that he did and not just knowing his life story, but really how we see ourselves in Moses and in his story and what God is doing in us, which I thought was really interesting. The one that kind of struck me as interesting in a place at first, I thought I don't know how this fits in, was actually Jeff Kunzelman's article, because at first I thought, oh, this is kind of about legacy and finance and, this idea of giving, and I don't quite understand how it fits with Moses. But then I think when I read it again, it's kind of still talking about this idea of, we often celebrate the missionary, and I'm a missionary, so I get this feeling sometimes when I come on home assignment back to, our local churches in America, I get this sense of almost we're put on this weird pedestal in a way of like, we're doing the thing that, God has called us to, similar to how we do with Moses a lot, I think, especially with our kids or the way we tell the stories. But this idea that there's, number one, there's always more, but that there's more to do, but also that the people that are behind the scenes being faithful to give and to pray and to send, they're just as important to the story. And so I like that when I think about Moses and I see Aaron and how he supported Moses. And we read Cheryl's story about how she felt supported by the global church and by her local church. So yeah, that was surprising to me the more I recognized how much these really, these all kind of connect in a really unique way. So I liked that one a lot, actually. That was an interesting article.
Yeah, and Moses stands out to me. We've hit on this, but and I guess you could think about this in a general way, and maybe this is speaking more about me than other readers. But when I read through Moses, I find myself identifying in his struggle, not in his victory. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, I think it was Stan Reeder's article that talks about his tombstone.
Yeah.
Reference Tombstone Pizza as well, which I like the reference in there, but worth reading.
That's a throwback for sure.
Yeah. Right. But that in Eddie's book at the Foundry that he wrote on that talks the last chapter of his book. Obviously, talks about the last chapter of Moses' life. But that I don't know. You kind of read that and you think this would be like a good end to a Hemingway or a Steinbeck novel, but like God, come on, he's right there. There's that kind of tension and frustration. But at the same time, if you read the whole story of Moses, you recognize his life was grace-filled. I mean, Tim Green hits on that too with grace happening before the covenant. But Moses' life is definitely grace before the covenant in the sense that God, not that his anger and his murder defines him, but we remember that like Moses didn't pay the price for that. He didn't, ultimately God paid the price, pays the price for that in Jesus, but God said, I'm not going to view you in your faults. Even though I, as the reader, I'm bringing this around. This was a long digression, but I, as the reader, seem to identify with his faults. But God didn't view him through his faults. God viewed them through his victory, which I just think is interesting. I mean, the Moses character for me, maybe Paul as well in the New Testament, but maybe more than any character other than Jesus, is a dynamic character in which we just see his relational reality in his relationship with God. I mean, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like, but there's clear struggles. Paul also technically might have been a murderer. I don't know. He was zealous, persecuting the church, but just the dynamic of that is fascinating for me. But yeah, when I read through Moses, I'm thinking, well, he messed up too. I identify with those kind of like if he did that, then those kind of things. But it is interesting, even though he doesn't make it to the promised land, ultimately God believed in him more than he believed in himself, maybe is a better way to put it. But yeah, fascinating character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I liked that Dr. Reeder's article talked about how God views success versus how we view success.
Yeah.
And that idea too of, some of this, we do see Moses, he doesn't make it to the promised land, and boy, how devastating it would be as a human and all that stuff. But that ultimately God still used him in such powerful ways, and that is success. And yeah, I don't know. It's a good reminder for sure, I think.
And he got to see God face to face. I mean, that is just,
yeah.
I don't remember which article it is, but I think it's in Dr. Eigsti's at the beginning. He talks about how Moses in scripture, which of course it doesn't say everything, but he seems most comfortable when he's just with God on the mountain, like face to face with the Lord, And it's something I found really interesting too in reading through specifically the scripture, but also the articles, is how explicit God's instructions were to Moses. Like he calls him to this ridiculous task, but he tells him exactly what to do at every turn. So I thought that was something really interesting to think about, because leadership now, kind of is, it's difficult. I think leadership is difficult no matter what. But to have such explicit instructions, so he was truly sustained in his call. And Dr. Daniels talks about that too. God equipped Moses perfectly for the task that he called him to, which I thought was something interesting as well. So it brought a little bit more understanding to him being barred from seeing the promised land, because again, he was given such specific instruction and had followed it so perfectly until that moment. So
yeah,
that was an interesting point.
Yeah. And I mean, again, it's one of those things we'll have to ask God when we get to heaven, why, couldn't Moses, but you read through Joshua and you think, how honestly, how stressful would that have been for Moses to have to do that? It's not like they walked into the promised land and they had it. Joshua had to come in as a leader and conquest and all that. So in some sense, God did bring Moses home to the promised land ultimately, but I think that end chapter kind of changes our perspective. I think in life, not that I'm an old man yet, but I'm becoming an old man. We constantly think like, we have more time than we do. That I can build this, if I can just get to this next thing, then I'll have rest. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what the tension of Moses, like, if I can just do this, finally get to the promised land. But ultimately, I think God reminds us at the end of Moses' life, the promised land is not actual land in Israel. I mean, it is, but I'm just saying there's an ultimate rest for the church that is Christ, that I think is drawn out. But yeah, it's one of those things that you read and you're just like, man, that's one of those like passages of scripture that thinks like, is there an alternative ending? It just seems like it should have gone a different way. I mean, like that was like the whole arc of his story is unfulfilled. It's got some poetic irony at the end of it. But yeah,
definitely. Yeah, definitely does.
Jordan, in looking at the articles, we talked about this. So teeing you up here a little bit. But what are some of the articles we wish we could have had? What are some of the moments? I mean, you drew that out in the timeline, but what are some of the moments we wish we thought, man, we probably should have got an article on that. That would have been interesting.
It's so tough to choose. I was very influenced in my childhood by Prince of Egypt. And so the crossing of the Red Sea is just like, it's my favorite scene from scripture. It's so awesome. And so I think it would have been cool to have an article on that, which you have to kind of use some imagination. And of course they did in the movie as well, because the actual scripture is not that long. It's really just a few paragraphs. Like they crossed this whole sea on dry land. It's just amazing. My kids love that story too. So it would have been cool to have an article about that. Just some of those scenes from the Exodus and the experience of wandering around and, manna from heaven, literally sustaining them every day for 40 years. I mean, it's hard to imagine any of this happening in real life, but just to have some articles about those experiences, I think would have been kind of cool to include. Of course, you cannot do everything in a 40-page magazine, that is. You can't do it all, but I think that would have been really cool to draw some more of that out if we could have.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully we didn't miss anything.
Yeah. Well, there's always more. There's always more we could have put in there. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
Crystal, what about you in reading it? Did you think, why didn't they get one of the, what were some of our missed spots that we could have, if we do Moses 2.0, Moses the sequel, we could hit on?
This is the sequel. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jordan that, the whole journey of the Israelites is such a fascinating thing.
I know.
But maybe that's not Moses' story, that's the Israelite story. I don't know. But yeah, I think even somebody mentioned it briefly, but I think I would have loved to see a little bit more fleshing out of the purpose of the wilderness in Moses' life and all those lessons that were learned. We talk about the manna and the relying on God every day and not storing up for yourself, but trusting that it's going to come every day. I mean, there's so many beautiful things throughout his life that are so interesting to me. But yeah, I think, I mean, honestly, it's a great start. I think it's a really beautiful overview of a lot of the highlights for sure.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. What about you,
Well,
Nate?
and
What did we miss?
I mean, the one thing that Jordan and I talked about, Crystal, when we were thinking through it, and I don't even know how far you can go with it. Again, this might be Moses 3.0, Moses the third kind of issue, but I thought it'd be kind of neat too to think about it from a New Testament perspective. How Jesus fulfilled a lot of the prophecies, how Jesus kind of even like archetypally lived from Exodus through the wilderness to the cross, all that. That would be interesting. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about how the New Testament, references back to the Pentateuch, how important the Pentateuch was for the shaping of it. Again, that's kind of getting a little broader than Moses. That's the legacy of Moses, maybe. Maybe that's what the issue would be called. But I thought that would be a neat article. The wilderness. I'm gonna speak. Put my cards on the table. I want to know more about that. I mean, I've read about that, but I'm not an Old Testament scholar. But like, what is the meaning of the staff with the snake? I mean, there's a lot of meaning and symbolism in Moses' wilderness life. The manna. Well, even just like when Paul references things like manna and crossing over in reference to, Eucharist and baptism. There's just a lot of symbolism. I mean, there's so much in Moses' life that he really becomes. And then we could have, as I'm looking at this, and we didn't think about it at the time, Jordan obviously did, we could have had Moses' legacy just for the world. You did that with art, but just how important Moses becomes for the three major world religions. There could have been an element there too.
Right.
The legacy of the written law. A little bit. Yeah.
Sorry,
she does in her editorial.
You're
good. Yeah. So there's a couple different angles. I mean, I think our authors hit the core. They hit the. We've got it. There's just so much to cover. I mean, really, honestly, but.
And hopefully it encourages people to read, because I've read these stories so many times, but in putting this issue together, I have been reading, trying to read through these first 5 books of the Bible as much as I can, just over and over. And every time I do, something new pops out, or I'm like, wow, I never realized this before, and it's amazing how you can read it 1,000 times and there's always something new.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, and I love how Holiness Today, the magazine and the podcast, I think you guys do a really nice job about balancing that idea of talking about theology and digging deep into the Bible and all this, but you also find a balance, I think, of how people actually live it out. How do people actually live out holiness, through the visible ways of compassion and forgiveness and obedience and all those things. And I think this issue does that well with Moses. We can dig into the theology of the connections and all of that, and that stuff is really good and interesting too. But at least for this first issue, 2.0, 3.0, but 1.0, I think it's great to see the man and the way that he lived out holiness and faithfulness and obedience in a lot of difficulty and a lot of challenges and a lot of mistakes and all those things. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's good that you guys strike that balance well.
Yeah. And I think our authors, Scott Daniels writes about wrestling with the call and different, so does Sam Barber as well. But getting the right pastoral tone is important too. So we do have a lot of good writers and good speakers, good pastors writing in our issue that are trying to, like you said, Crystal, not making it overly academic, but kind of talking about what can we glean from this story. So we try and do that. So Jordan, shout out to you because you spent. I mean, I did a little bit here and there. I kind of helped plot a little bit. I did some feedback stuff, but this was a lot of your work. So shout out to Jordan getting this to.
Thank you. It's
getting
a
the
very
layout,
fun.
getting the articles together, and all that. So it looks great.
Thank
Did you
you.
pick? Okay, just from a picking your brain.
Mhm.
You mentioned different artwork. Which did you? So that first one is Michelangelo. Is that right? On the first page there.
Sculpture. Mm-hmm.
Did you pick some other artwork throughout?
Well, I mentioned in that little blurb that I wrote about Moses and art, I mentioned a few more, famous representations, but no, the rest of them are mostly just like etchings and drawings from different scenes of his life, which there's so many. They're plentiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where those are from. So the sculpture, you just can't not have it. It's just so iconic and amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's great. We had that in another issue. I think our issue on the law, we had that sculpture
I think
as well.
you're right.
That was
you're right, which was a long time ago. Or Covenant, maybe.
8 years ago or something, Crystal. I don't. We had something on the Covenant a long time ago or something.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah. Oh my
A long
goodness.
time ago, but well before I was designing. But.
This will be coming out July 1st, right? I mean, hopefully we'll be hitting mailboxes then.
Yeah, should be close to then.
And this episode should be up July 1st. If you're listening, that's the goal. So excited to have that. But I also, now that I have both of you, captive audience, I'm just going to ask personal questions. But Jordan, what do you got coming up for the issues? Can you share a little bit the issues coming up?
Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit our next one. It's September, but it's going to be kind of Theology After Wesley, our loose title. So we did the Theological Family Tree issue last fall about some theologians that have shaped our identity. And then this is going to be more recent theologians. Some of them are still living. So that will be kind of a cool one. That one's going to be after Moses. And then the last issue of the year is on Sabbath, which again, kind of you can draw lines from this Moses issue because there are such specific, instructions about Sabbath in the beginning of all that. So Sabbath rest, what that looks like, again, in a practical sense, how do we do that? That's the last issue of the year. So that wraps us up through 2026.
Awesome. All right, Crystal, putting you on the spot. You've been traveling a ton lately. What's where you been at, and what do you got coming up over the summer? You taking some break this summer?
I am not.
No.
I mean, here and there, a few days here and there, but not really. Yeah, I mean, so I have the privilege of kind of being in this global role and helping with communications around the world. And so I've gotten to do, they have this beautiful camp for young people that they've been doing called CreaCom, Created to Communicate. And so I was in Costa Rica, I was in Argentina doing that. I'm going to one in Africa and Ghana in July. I'll be at NYC in Salt Lake City next week. Excited about that. I'm still very busy. I live in Germany, and so I'm also part of Eurasia region, and so I'll also be at the NYC that they're doing in Spain this summer.
Oh, cool! That's
very
really
busy,
cool.
but awesome opportunities. Yeah.
So,
I think Bonnie will be with you in Ghana. I think she's
Bonnie should be in Ghana with you as well.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. A bit of a fun question. So I'm getting us off Moses a little bit. Jordan, you first. What's the best meal you've had in the last few months?
So this is actually kind of funny that you asked that because my husband is a pastor and he leads a young men's accountability group, and they have been doing challenges for each other each month. And this month's challenge is to cook dinner for someone else like once a week or something like that. So he just made dinner last night. That was really, really good. It was grilled salmon and some fresh veggies from the garden. Some church friends of ours have a huge garden. They gave us a ton of lettuce, and then we've got garden plants in our own backyard. So that was last night, and it was a great meal.
Pretty darn good, huh?
Yeah. It was really good. Yes.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
So
Crystal, what about you? Best meal you've had recently?
But ever recently? Okay.
You got to do last year.
Okay.
In the last year.
I'll do this week. So. Living in Germany, it's hard to find Mexican food. It's not very common here. In fact, I think the closest we got was a burrito with like cauliflower in it. And so my husband and I are kind of late to the air fryer game, but we just got one, and we had air fryer like nachos, which were fantastic.
Yeah,
I think just they probably weren't like the greatest nachos in the world, but because we hadn't had anything in that style food in a while. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot. So
Yeah. Are you going to get any good Mexican when you come to the States here in a bit?
for
Is that the
sure.
plan?
Although we're going to Utah, so I'm not sure what's
Yeah,
there. I don't know if
right.
it's mostly.
I've never actually
don't know.
been to Salt Lake. I've never been. Have you ever
I haven't
been?
either. It's my first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love to go.
Like if you were going to New Mexico, obviously, you'd get some
Yeah.
great, or Arizona, even Colorado,
Yeah,
but I don't know
yeah.
about Utah.
Mhm.
Utah
I
has
don't
great
know.
Mexican or not.
So
You'll
we'll
have to
see,
tell us.
but I think
Yeah.
they have In-N-Out Burger though. I'm excited about
Oh,
that.
there you go.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
And I think like
fantastic.
Swig or something, like the
yeah.
crazy
That's all the new
soda. I don't know.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure I'll try something exciting and delicious. But
Yeah. Yeah.
what about you?
Oh, good question. Okay, so I'm going to out the Chinese buffet industry, but I felt like after COVID, I couldn't find a good
Yeah.
Chinese buffet.
Yeah.
And so we went to visit, I went with my dad to visit one of his churches up in the northern Michigan district in Oscoda. And they said that in East Tawas, so I'm just throwing out some random Michigan references for you, Crystal, that they have a Chinese buffet there that's good. And so I said, well, let's do it, because I have not had one since. I really feel like, at least in the Kansas City area, all the buffets that I liked were just wiped out during COVID, so they didn't survive. And it was pretty good. I would say that they were correct. It was still good, and it's just funny, Jordan, if you're up in Michigan, like there's just so much lakefront property. I mean, you see just like things that it's like it looks like it would just be, I mean, it is probably a valuable spot, but like the Chinese restaurant was just like so unassuming, just China buffet is all it said, and it's like right on Lake Huron. So it's like you wouldn't see that anywhere else, but yeah, it was good. I would say that surprised me that I was able to find a good Chinese buffet restaurant in the post-COVID era, but I don't know. I love food. So my dad just makes steak, I think, every night. So I've been eating a lot of, while I'm temporarily staying at my parents' house right now, I've been eating a lot of steak. So yeah, it's been good.
Sounds like a treat.
Yeah, not bad.
Just
So
makes me think.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, say it.
I was going to say, it makes me think again about eating manna every day, 3 meals a day for 40 years.
I know.
Like we have
Eventually.
so many options now. They ate the same thing for
Over
40
and over.
years. That's a
Yeah.
whole lifetime. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just crazy.
It's like when we go to India, we have curry for every meal every day. And
Yeah.
I love Indian food. I love curry. But
Yeah.
when you eat it
But
morning,
it gets to
noon,
a point. Yeah. Yeah.
you have to do this.
It's
Oh
like,
my goodness.
need something less spicy, less
Variety.
curry.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Okay, so Crystal, I've asked Jordan this before, but this is IP we're sourcing for our Sabbath rest issue. But how do you rest? I kind of know. I think I've asked you that before, but share with our audience again. Like you're working a ton, but how do you get some downtime?
Well, it's interesting because I'm in a little bit of a different season in my life, for sure, than Jordan is. But my kids are grown, and so it's just my husband and I, and we're in a foreign land. So actually, rest is intentional, but it also comes much easier here, I think. We have a lot of practice from being in ministry all those years of really carving out time for our marriage and for our family and for rest. And so, yeah, I mean, we really are intentional about protecting our time. In fact, after I'm done recording this, we're going to see the new Spielberg movie. We're going on a date night.
Ah,
Okay.
I
And
haven't
that's part
seen
of
that
the way
yet.
that we rest
Yeah.
is, we love when we can see an English movie here in Germany. It's great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like, I think it's about intentionality for me, I think. And just
Yeah.
making sure my boundaries, I mean, ministry is so important and it can feel like it will take as much time as you give it. And so it's important, I think, to set those boundaries and those priorities and hold tight to them, hold firm to them. And God doesn't want us to give every moment to ministry. I think he asks us to give priority to family and marriage and, of course, our relationship with him. So, yeah. I don't know if that answered your question exactly.
Yeah.
But
Well, I was going to also ask for a movie recommendation, but you kind of gave both. So
Oh.
you're going to see Disclosure Day. Is that what it is? Disclosure
Yes.
Day. I'm
Yes.
planning on seeing that soon too. So I'm a little bit behind on my movie watching, but you'll have to let me know if it's any good. So it looks
I will,
really
I will.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting here. This is just a fun fact. One of the ways that they do movies differently in Germany and Switzerland, we kind of live on the border of the two, is they take an intermission. So like these long movies, like
I like that.
I know like when I'm in America, like I have to time, okay, I have to go to the bathroom, but this seems like they're just going to talk for a minute, so I'm going to run out.
Yeah,
But
right.
they
right.
like stop the movie, turn
Wow.
on all the lights, everybody goes to the bathroom. Some dude with ice cream comes in and sells
Oh my
ice
goodness.
cream. It's
Oh,
like
that's
a
really cool.
mid-movie snack, and then they start it back up. It's the weirdest experience, but also super smart.
That is.
Well, I think that one's a longer one too. I think I saw it was like 2.5 hours. So you'll definitely need one.
You definitely have an intermission.
Yeah. We were at a movie the other night, and my wife had to run out. And then when she comes back, you're trying to, I'm telling Anne, well, you missed this, and then you become that person doing that. So it's good to have those breaks. So,
and as we get older, our bladder doesn't hold as long as it
doesn't last as long.
Breaks,
exactly. So good stuff. Well, Jordan, you read any fun books to recommend for readers, or you got any?
Oh goodness,
you got any movies? You got any parting words for our guests?
Nate knows this. I should be more of a movie person than I am. I am uncultured in the way of movies. He's tried to help me out, give me lists and stuff, but movies I don't have good recommendations. I'm in kid land right now. So we are doing
Dr. Seuss books.
We're reading Dr. Seuss. We're reading. I'm trying to actually, so something my mom did for us growing up was she would read like a chapter book at dinner to us. And my sister does that with her kids. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that with my kids. They're so little. So their attention spans and their, comprehension levels different. So I'm trying to think of a chapter book that I could read to them, but
get the old Ramona and Beezus, Beverly Cleary. I don't know if the kids are still reading those these days, but Henry Huggins.
I read those growing up, so why not bring them back?
We also loved. We would do with our kids also, like on the way, because our kids went to a school where there was no buses, so I had to drive them every day, and we did audiobooks, and that was a great hit because there's so many now that are dramatized. So it's interesting, and that was always fun.
We've been doing that too. There's a few podcasts that do stories, kids stories, and so my kids love listening to those. But if you guys think of any good chapter books for young kids, let me know. I'd love to do that with them. Kind of get them, turn them into little readers. So
And what's the age of your kiddos?
Hannah will be 5 next month, actually, my oldest, and then Jacob's 3. Joshua just turned 1, so they're itty bitty, but.
Yeah.
Hopefully Joshua will learn some through, just osmosis hearing. He won't understand yet, but
he'll become precocious and learn things at a high rate of speed.
Right.
So.
I hope so.
Well, thanks both for doing this. This is fun. So is this editor episode 2? Is that right, Jordan?
I think it's our second one. Yeah.
So, and Crystal, you decided to be our first reader to try this out. So we're going to try and get other guest readers.
I'm glad you joined us. I loved having an outside perspective. That was super helpful.
And for our listeners, you'll hear Crystal next week interviewing. I'm so sorry, Crystal. I keep forgetting his name. I'm going to edit this out. But who are you interviewing next week?
Tim Bowen Evans. And actually, I love that you're forgetting it. He is Irish and very cheeky or sarcastic. So I will give him a hard time that you can't remember. That's how important he is.
Tim Bowen Evans. Terrible. No, I'm excited. I haven't edited it yet. So once I edit it, then I'll get to listen to it and I'll imbibe it. So does he have a good Irish brogue, good accent there? Does it come out?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so similar to Jim Ritchie, I think it helps him out a lot. He's not actually that interesting, but his accent is fantastic.
That's good. Oh, man. Well, thank you both for sharing this time. Your afternoon, you're coming into your evening, so and then our morning. So
almost 5.
Yeah. Well, you have a good evening, Crystal. Jordan and I will be working the rest of our day over here. So well, thanks for spending this time. Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Holiness Today podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to us and follow us on social media. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon, Audible, and wherever else you may find your podcasts.